Welcome everybody to the X Factor podcast. Today we're going to get right into it with AEW Dynamite review, which is going to be a very interesting one based off what happened at Dynamite last night, and it's been causing an uproar all over social media. Remember to follow the Twitter, follow the TikTok for more wrestling, football content, and remember to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and remember that the gaming channel will be coming out very, very soon, so stay tuned for that. Start off the show. The first thing I'm going to start off with, the show was not that great. Outside of the main event and the first match and the footage and the Will Ospreay segment, nothing was really, everything besides that was it was a But I am still going to defend a couple things, which I'll get into here in a little bit. The footage thing will be the last thing I will talk about. First match, well, it was supposed to be the first match, Samoa Joe versus Dustin Rhodes in an eliminator match for the AEW World Championship. And Samoa Joe comes out, getting ready for his fight, and then Swerve takes him out, puts him through a table, and that was the end. And then we had to wait for the main event for that, which would be on later on. So the first match ended up being Adam Copeland versus Penta for the TNT title. And this was a match that, since they announced it last week, I was very intrigued, very interested to see this match. And they came out and they had a 20-minute banger. There was a little, I don't even know what to call it. It was just a big bunch of yellow lines sitting in the middle of the ring. And it was when, I think Penta, they're in the corner and they do an Irish whip into the other corner on the right side, and it just popped up out of nowhere, and I had to go back to see what it was. I don't even know what it was. And I still don't know what it was. So it was very confusing to see that going on, but then they kept going. The slam, they're in the apron on the right side where the fans are on the hard cam, and Adam Copeland's, Penta was to go do something, and Adam Copeland slams him. It was very vicious. Very vicious. And then Penta went to go for a springboard. Edge spears him. Adam Copeland spears him. And it's the 1-2-3. Very good match. Adam Copeland has had his run in AEW, in my opinion, has been better than his run in WWE, only because of the fact that he has been there much more. He isn't just a part-time guy on there. And people, they can say what they want of Adam Copeland being just another regular guy on the roster. But when you're there every week, yes, you kind of are just a regular person on the roster. But we also know how big of a star Edge is. Adam Copeland, my bad. So, they could say what they want, but Adam Copeland's a star. He's been a star for years. He's one of the greatest of all time. And regardless if he's in AEW or not, people should still acknowledge that. I feel like since he's been over to AEW, people have openly been criticizing him and changing their opinions on him and being very weird about it, which, if you're being weird at all because some guy went over to another company, let's be fucking for real now. You're being fucking weird. And those are the same people that don't take showers for years, so they can smell themselves up somewhere else. But their match was very good. Very, very good. And, and the gear that Adam Copeland has had since joining AEW, that's been very good. I feel like he's always had a good style when it came to his uniforms. And all that he's had, it's been very cool, in my opinion. And like I said, I was going to skip over the footage till last. Will Ospreay comes out, and one of the things, he gave a promo. It wasn't even really about Bryan Danielson, but it was more about what was said on the Pat McAfee show last week. And because Triple H mentioned something about running from the grind, and mentioning if you like not having a hard enough schedule or all that, then I'm glad that I didn't sign you. Which a lot of people were referencing Will Ospreay. And it could have been Will Ospreay. No, Triple H didn't say no names, but a lot of people assumed that it was him. I assumed it was him. Only because Triple H is mad because he didn't sign him or Okada. So, but Will Ospreay comes out and he defends himself. Like, nobody can get mad that he defended himself. He defended himself, and one of the great points he has is that he goes up for the UK, back to the US to do this. He was also the same guy that wrestled in Japan, and then the next day would have to go over to the UK, next night would have to go over to Australia, or would have to go to a Rev or Pro, or would have to then have to go back to Japan. So if anybody is talking about running from the grind, Will Ospreay is not the man to point fingers at. Because he is, throughout his whole years of Japan, he has been grinding. Like, he literally wore himself out. And if you want to take shade at, and not acknowledging that, then that's on you for not acknowledging it. But I'm going to acknowledge it because he even said in his post press conference, after his last match, that he said he was tired. He was worn out. And a lot of it is because of how much of the travel that he has to do and go over, wrestle, and do this and do that. And that's wearing his body down. So if you want to take shots and say that he's running from the grind, all I gotta say is you're completely wrong. And should look and see how he got to where he is today. Only thing I'm going to say right there. And the funniest part about the whole thing is he goes, the person that said it, what was it? And he said that, ironically, he said he wouldn't talk about this kind of bait like this, but it's ironic that the guy that said it only is in the position he is today is because he was grinding on the wife or on the boss's daughter, which was very funny. Very funny. People could take offense to that all they want. I don't care. To me, that was funny. I don't care about people, taking shots at each other like that. I had last week, I said I had differences on that, but that was a way different situation. Everyone was being way too fucking weird about it. But to me, taking shots at each other, and plus I had a good week to really lab on this, shouldn't be really getting mad about taking shots at each other. But if you're expecting one company to take shots at you, you expect the other company to fire back. Because if you're not going to fire back, then you're just... Then what's the point? You're taking shots at a wall. And AEW has done that for years. Like, for years upon that point. But then now WWE's striking back. And yes, you can, every AEW has the right to strike back. After, what WWE's taken lots of shots at them over the last week. So AEW has every right to take whatever shot back at them. And the one of them that they did, and it kind of fired back at them on this one, which I'll get into in a little bit. But as fans, if you're fans of one company, and you're over there saying, well, AEW, they can't keep doing it out their mouths, well, you should probably look the other direction too. Like, it goes two ways on this. And if you don't notice that, then you might literally be blind. And need to check, read the room a little bit, But that's just me. People have their own opinions on them. And it's whatever. Jericho, Shibata, and Hook faced Shane Taylor Promotions. My one word for that was mid. Not that great. Okada had a squash match, and then Mariah May faced Anna Jay. One of the things, Mariah May, Anna Jay. Mariah May, first off, has been one of the few. You see her stuff in Stardom, and I have not watched much Stardom. I don't know how to access it. If anyone would like to help me on that, or find sites that you don't have to pay for to do it, or if there is, tell me how much they are. I don't know. Seeing some of her stuff in Stardom, she looks very good. I feel like since she's came over to AEW, it's still good. It's just it isn't the same I feel like a lot of it has to be because they have a lot more of American wrestlers than they do with Japanese women wrestlers. Um, Her and Anna Jay, though, they had a solid matchup. Anna Jay lost. She started choking her, and then... Sorry, I'm going to mispronounce this name. But... Okay, this is going to sound very bad on my part. I'm so sorry, everybody. Shikawa. She used to be with... I think she used to be with... Tony... Or not Tony Storm. With Mariah May at some point in Stardom. They had a... brought champagne in the ring, and then they kissed each other. So that was very, very interesting. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name. That is 100% my fault. And then one of the things before that, Tony Storm or Thunder Rosa came out, who is fighting Tony Storm in a couple weeks. Tony Storm threw champagne or threw something at Thunder Rosa, and then Storm. Then Deonna Purrazzo came in and tried taking her out. She tried to go over to help Thunder Rosa, but Thunder Rosa kind of threw her hand away, and then Deonna Purrazzo left. And I feel like the last couple since that tag match that they had with each other, you can sense that she's going to be turning heel soon. For what reason, I don't know. They're gonna... Hopefully she does well, I guess. So yeah, that's where I stand on that one. The main event, Samoa Joe faced Dustin Rhodes. They had a good match. They had a one, and Dustin Rhodes. A lot of people didn't know that Dustin Rhodes still got that bag in him. He still got that juice left in him. He came out. Him and Samoa Joe had a very good match. The one of the things when Dustin Rhodes did the Crossroads, and Samoa Joe kicked out, I'm like, oh my god, if I see another Samoan kick out of a Crossroads, I might lose it, because after seeing WrestleMania and all this, it's just been very crazy. And a little part of me wished that Dustin would have won that Eliminator match if Swerve got into it with Joe or whatever. But Samoa Joe ended up winning, choked out Dustin out a little bit more, who already had blood all over his face. Swerve came out and took out Samoa Joe. And I'm very excited to watch their match. Very excited to see their match, in my opinion, because Swerve he was a heel. We call him he was a heel at one point. And the fact that the fans had made a full turnaround for him into a babyface has been amazing. And of course, since Prince Nana has to be a big part of that. And we could potentially be seeing a new AEW World Champion and the first ever African American World Champion in AEW history. My thing is, I just don't want Samoa Joe to lose yet. I think he has a couple more months left to as champion. And it's just a rough time because they need to pull the trigger on Swerve on something. But at the same time, it's just like, Samoa Joe's your champion. Like, what do you do next? I have a good feeling Swerve might win. But like I said, Samoa Joe, he's in this is a rough time because Swerve is in the main event scene and they need to pull the trigger. And and if he doesn't win, then it's like, what do you do after that, So it's gonna be very interesting to see what they do with Swerve and all this, especially if he does lose. But it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be very interesting. And then now to the final part of the show. Well, no, it's not the final part, but it's the final thing I'm going to be talking about is the footage, the all-in footage. Young Bucks presented, and you could tell from the start that Tony Schiavone, you can look at him and he goes, you could just tell it's going to be some bullshit. And it was bullshit. I made jokes about it, of course, but, taking it off the joke side of things, man, it was very rough. And don't get me wrong, they came out and they had a good, very good reason of everything. They were talking about Jack Perry and all this, and they were mentioning how CM Punk ruined their show because he was only thinking about himself. And they quoted a CM Punk saying, if you have a problem with Jack Perry, then most likely you're the problem. Which I love hearing that one. But they came out and they tried saying that the FTR helped them plan this because they're friends with CM Punk. Which, storyline wise, I'm actually very interested, or was very intrigued by that. How the creative wise of doing it was very intriguing and interesting. But the problem of the whole situation is what we knew beforehand is that they were going to try to embarrass CM Punk. And the footage, they shot themselves in the foot. They definitely shot themselves in the foot. Because all it was CM Punk and Jack Perry were talking. Punk shoved him, put him in a headlock. Or if you want to put it more visual, he put him in a guillotine chokehold, which was Roman Reigns' submission move. And then Punk gets in Tony Khan's face and walks away. And I don't know where the part where Tony Khan fears for his life. It could be the part when Punk gets in his face. Because, if Punk, he could have just punched him and, walked away. But it made AEW look more like a fool. Because they were trying to embarrass him. And then it ended up backfiring. And if they would have not have said any of that, and they would have just put the FTR and Punk planned this, then that would have been perfectly made sense right there. But the fact that it didn't, or the fact that they had to have more into it and trying to embarrass CM Punk because he upset them, like trying to defend their company makes 100% sense. Everyone would do it. If you sit there, you can't sit there and tell me that you would not defend your company if a former employee said all that stuff about you. If you sit there and tell me that you wouldn't defend him, you're a liar. But the footage, they shot themselves in the foot majorly. There's no really, and the main thing is this all could have been, saved. But if in Punk, like he said, Tony Khan is not a boss. He's a nice guy. Even nice guys have to be bosses sometimes. And it all could have been solved, if Punk would have been quiet about it and not have just let it go. Because if someone, it would still be, and one of the things, it still would have been, disrespecting the veterans in the locker room, which we all know that Punk is very up for. You have to be respectful to the veterans in the locker room. But if Punk would have just left it alone and if he would have just said something to Tony Khan or whatever, it might have not have worked, but it all could have been resolved. And the fact that we're talking about this 8 months after, come on. And of course you have the people online being fucking stupid about it. People are literally saying that this is the burial and ending of AEW. I don't know where that fucking comes from. They have 2 bad weeks and everyone thinks it's over for them. That's nowhere near true. And to the people that want to sit there and say this is like WCW 2000, I want them to personally go and watch a 2000 WCW episode and come back and see what you think about AEW. Because, for one, since March or since January, AEW has been at its best. Besides the last 2 weeks, take the last 2 weeks out. AEW's been at its best. and they're having 2 rough weeks, and we get it. The whole Punk situation, it shook them, it pissed them off. It would have pissed me off as well. Don't give me, I can't sit there and lie to you and say it wouldn't piss me off. It would have pissed me off. It would have pissed a lot of people off if they were owners or if they worked for that company, and you hear people say that, But a lot of this should have been resolved a long time ago, and I'm hoping that AEW goes on their own ways and not talk about Punk anymore, because there's no reason to. And hoping that everyone just enjoy what you watch and not be a fucking weirdo on the internet about it. As for storyline wise, I feel like this could be a way to get Jack Perry to join the New Elite. And fuck over the Young, or fuck over FTR. To me, that could be one of the things for storyline wise. But I'm slowly getting tired of having to hear fucking weirdos on this app talk about how AEW's this, AEW's that, WWE's this, WWE's that. It's coming from both sides. You can't sit there and say it only comes from one side. It comes from both sides. If you expect one company to take shots at you, you have to expect the other one to come back. If you're going to sit there, and if you're only expecting a one-way street, then don't fucking say a word. And one of the things is, if you don't watch, and I said this last week, I said this week, if you don't watch AEW, and if you haven't seen a peep of AEW in the last year, you don't get to tell anyone about how AEW is or what it's like. And if you do, then whatever, but that's just how I feel about it. To me, it's not really much of a personal. It's just, when you're seeing it constantly on the internet, it's just like it gets tired of it. And I don't care about ratings. I don't care about all this business stuff that y'all pretend to care about. I don't care about it. All I care about is what's happening in the ring and what's happening with the storylines. If you actually care about the ratings and all this, then tell them what they need to do better then. You can't just sit there and go, oh, they're going out of business, look at their ratings. No one cares about the ratings. Even if you always are one of those people that talks about ratings, or if you're a podcaster that talks about the ratings, you don't really... In my opinion, they don't care about it. They only care about it when it fits their narrative. Or when it fits their argument. But... And that's just my opinion on it. But I will say, though, this week for AEW was not very good for Dynamite. Hopefully that they bounce back next week, or bounce back on Collision, which it looks like with the Tony Storm match that they announced. So hopefully they bounce back and we get back in business with AEW. WWE's it's doing really hot. AEW, they're just in a stump in the road. Hopefully they get back on track. And let's just enjoy professional wrestling. And like The Rock says, enjoy the road that The Rock's giving you on. Enjoy the road that these two companies are giving us right now, because there's going to be a time and place where both companies are going to, do very bad for multiple months. And it's going to be like, damn, I really wish that we had that time again. Because I know I'm definitely going to. I felt the same way with 2016 Raw and SmackDown. 2016, from that draft to after WrestleMania, or after SummerSlam 2017. It's like, damn. When we were in those rough days of 2020, in like the pandemic and after that, it's like, damn, I really missed those days. So, y'all stay blessed. Have a good day. Enjoy. If you watch Ring of Honor, enjoy Ring of Honor. If you watch TNA, enjoy TNA. I'm watching them both. By the way, new thing coming out. I'm posting match ratings on my Twitter after the shows. They'll be there every time the show ends. So, my Dynamite ones are already out. So tomorrow it'll be TNA and Ring of Honor, and then of course SmackDown, Collision, and all that. Let me know down below what you think, and also, about the match ratings. Let me know what you think about those two. The scale, the ranking scale that I have, it should be in one of those posts. You'll have to scroll through a little bit. If you don't want to do that, just let me know, and I'll put it back up. We all have a blessed day. Stay blessed, and stay off the weed. Have a good night.